Award-winning show, The Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the first watch today. The possibility and implications of a three-term USA president. And in second watch, exploring the protections given to wildlife in Jamaica. For our social media question, we ask, would you support a return to the time when the US president could run for a third or more term? Share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp. 876-9973-125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on the program, but first, here's I quote.
All right, today's I quote says, your attitude is the aroma of your heart.
An interesting I quote.
Mhm,
Any
so
author?
real.
I don't see an
No,
author.
no author today.
Good morning, Jacob.
Good morning.
The first watch. We'll be back after this break.
You're into savings with incredible deals from Home and Things. Whether you're upgrading your home or refreshing a room, don't miss these unbeatable deals now in full bloom. For the best in town, bathroom fixtures and faucets, windows, doors, vanities, lighting, and more. Home and Things is budding with discounts. So shop now on Hope Road and Constantine Road. Spring into savings and take home the deals. Shop Home and Things. New Dawn Outreach Ministries International presents Phillips County Hardback 3 to 5 Port Royal Street, Kingston, beside the craft shop. Adults 6,000, children 8 years and up to 1,000. It is free. Tickets at Music Mart and Source of Light. Dances and surprises, music, secured parking, and dinner included. Call 876-871-1810 or 496-0336. Phillips County Harbor. Monday, April 21. Doors open 2 p.m. Sale at 3 p.m.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Now on the 7th day of November, 1944, Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected to an unprecedented fourth term as President of the United States of America. Now, that's 13 years of service in effect before he died in office in 1945. He's the only president to do more than 2 terms. So President Trump is not asking for the impossible, it would appear. However, at this time, whoever sits in the chair of US president, the way things are currently constituted, can only do 2 terms, meaning 1 term followed by another. And President Trump has, you could maybe say, floated the idea of another term after his current term is up. Of course, he'd be running for an election, and it would be an open question as to whether or not he would win that election. What specifically might be the intent or the motivation behind such an idea? How many persons agree? How many disagree? Some people actually agree, and some are looking at the idea as being totally something that they would not want to see happen. they'd like the two-term regime to continue. We have as our guest this morning to look at this very interesting topic, Peter Malaguti, professor of law, Massachusetts School of Law, my humble apologies, and a constitutional law expert. And we also have Philip Hudson. Philip Hudson is a Jamaican who's a resident in the United States of America. Peter Malaguti and Professor Malaguti, my apologies, sir, and Philip Hudson. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Marshall.
Now, first of all, let me start with this. What specifically might be the intent of the current U.S. President Donald J. Trump mentioning the idea in relation to a third term? And apparently, he has said that it is to be taken seriously. He is not joking. He is open to the idea. It is something that he thinks can and should happen. That there are methods or ways to get to that result. Starting with the professor.
Well, I'm not a political scientist, and I'm not an expert on political motivations. So I'm speaking a little bit out of my league here when I.
Well, constitutionally, is it possible constitutionally?
That one I can argue. With much better confidence. I will tell you. I think motivationally, he is trying to get Americans used to the idea that he is going to do it. Constitutionally, it's an easy question. You started out, Mr. Marshall, by mentioning Roosevelt and how he served 4 terms. That was the whole motivation for the 22nd Amendment, which became part of the Constitution in 1951. And what it says is simple, that a president may only be elected to the office to 2 4-year terms. In May, if for some reason he becomes president without being elected, and that generally happens if a prior president dies, he may serve no more than 10 years. And under no shape or form of that amendment could President Trump run for a 3rd term. So constitutionally, it's simple. Now, he has floated a number of ideas, schemes, I would call them, that I don't think are constitutionally sound, and we can talk about those. It's your show. I'll let you direct, when we may talk about those. But I think he would fail under any, at least in the courts, he would fail under any argument that he might make under the Constitution.
And you call them, or you use the term schemes or the word schemes. Now, interesting you mentioned no more than 10 because, Donald J. Trump, President Trump, mentioned that maybe, or he indicated that the Constitution would require an amendment for this idea that he seems to be floating to bear fruit. Do you think that there is, well, I know you're not, your focus is on law, constitutional law, but do you foresee the likelihood that the United States of America would amend its constitution to do this?
I don't. I think it's a long shot, the longest of long shots. Think about the country that we're in right now. It is an incredibly polarized country. All of the elections we have at the presidential level are very, very close. The Constitution puts a heavy burden.
Not the last one.
Well, the last one was 1.5 points. It was still very close by the popular vote. So the Constitution puts a heavy burden on amendments. First of all, both houses of Congress have to get together and by a 2/3 vote to amend the Constitution. But that's not good enough. It then has to be sent out to the 50 states for ratification. In 3/3 of those states, that would be 38 of those states, would have to agree to the amendment. One only needs to read the history of the United States to understand that the reason that we put the limit on how many terms a president can serve is that a lot of people were getting afraid that FDR had been in office for too long, was exercising a lot of power that people thought presidents should not be exercising. And the whole purpose of the American Revolution was to free the United States, the America from the bondage of monarchy. So I think we still have fairly strong feelings about
Monarchy?
King George of England.
There's no monarch in America, unless you mean a sort of de facto situation where
yes,
you may not
exactly.
be a monarch, but you seem to be the one who keeps getting back into office. That's what you mean.
I'm sorry, keeps getting back into.
In other words, there's no monarchy in the United States, but the United States might not want a situation where the same person or persons seem to always get back into office.
Yeah, we don't want a situation where the executive branch, the president of the United States, is exercising too much power. We believe in separation of power.
Interesting you say the executive branch, because in Congress, well, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Professor, I don't think there are any term limits there. So you have some very long-standing members of Congress. Should there be term limits there as well?
Well, that would require another amendment of the Constitution.
I see. And earlier on, when you made mention of, a slim majority in terms of President Trump or, being back in the White House, you made mention of the popular vote by which he won being slim. Well, I didn't know it was being called slim, but the Electoral College, there was a wide gap. Any comments on that, or you're not considering that?
No, I'm not considering that. By all accounts, he won the election fair and square in 2024. And the American people spoke. But the American people also supported a term limitation back in 1951 when the 22nd Amendment became part of the Constitution of the United States.
Interesting. Philip Hudson, let's hear your thoughts. You're a Jamaican who's a resident in the United States of America. Philip Hudson, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Your take on the whole matter of a third term as expressed by President Donald J. Trump?
Well, I think President Trump has always admired leaders like Putin and Kim Jong-un. He stated clearly that Kim Jong-un wrote him love letters. So he likes those kind of systems with a strong
love letters.
Leadership.
Wrote him love letters.
When he was trying to negotiate with Kim Jong-un, he said Kim Jong-un wrote him love letters. So I'm saying he very much admires those kind of administrations.
You want to contextualize that, Mr. Hudson?
Well,
anyway, I'll leave it alone. Philip Hudson, so what is your feeling on the ground from persons who you're interacting with in terms of this idea of a third term?
Well, I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's going to happen. And I think Trump throws out a lot of things, such as wanting to take over Greenland, just to get people thinking about it or to divert them from the real situation at hand.
Hold that one second, Philip Hudson, because we are upon a break already. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
For more on the go, discover a new and convenient way to send money abroad with the GK1 app. Download GK1 from the Google Play Store or Apple App Store to send with Western Union today.
The time by Grace Kennedy Remittance is
7:15.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your wealth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101. The 2025 Jamaica Gospel Star Competition's new entry deadline is April 15, 2025. We want you to enter. Whether you're a seasoned performer or a new voice, this is your chance to showcase your talent and win over $1 million in cash and prizes. Only online entries will be accepted. Submit your entry at jcdcawards.platform.com. Deadline Tuesday, April 15. It's the Jamaica Gospel Star Competition 2025. Enter now.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the first watch, the main watch, and the topic is the possibility of it and implications of a third term or a three-term USA president. Our guests are Professor Peter Malaguti, Professor of Law, Massachusetts School of Law, and a constitutional law expert, and Philip Hudson, a Jamaican resident in the USA. Philip Hudson, just before the break, you were sharing your thoughts in terms of, what is the feeling or the mood on the ground in terms of the idea of a third U.S. presidential term, as appears to have been floated by President Trump. Continue, Philip Hudson.
Okay, when the electorate elected President Trump, they elected him on the basis of they anticipated that he would be able to improve the economy. That was the primary reason why they voted him. Now they're as questionable as to whether the direction that he's taken the country and the way that he's making problems or challenges with our traditional friends, as to whether he's on the right track, right? So we always know that Trump believes in strong leadership. We know that he admires, like I said, Putin and Kim Jong-un type of leadership. The question now is he able to bring that to the United States? Now, as the professor said, I don't believe that's possible at all. It's not possible under the Constitution, and it's not possible because the mode of the electorate, the mode of citizens, is not wanting to have a leadership which is like a king. They don't want a strong leadership. They want democracy. And that's what America stands for, democracy.
So democracy and strong leadership are mutually exclusive?
No, not from that perspective. Democracy meaning that they want the majority of citizens to decide who is the leading the country, and they don't want them to have. There's three branch of leadership. You have the Congress, you have the courts, and you have the executive, and they all correct each other. They all balance each other. So they don't want the executive to have such a power so that it overpowers the other branches of government. And the truth is that is what Trump is attempting to do. That is why there's so many court actions against the executive, what he's signing, the things he's signing, which is not, for the most part, most of what Americans want.
Interesting. I'm seeing some references online to what you made mention of. Certain letters. I'll leave it at that. He wrote me beautiful letters, and he continues. It seems to be a quote, his quote. He wrote me beautiful letters, and it continues. I'll leave it there. So, Philip Hudson, are you arguing then that for a country like Jamaica, that we should have term limits as well for the Prime Minister?
I think it would be valuable to have term limits for the Prime Minister. I think they have a Westminster type of government like England. The truth is, with younger people coming into politics, you have fresh ideas, So some people get entrenched into what they're doing. So I think it would be valuable to have term limits for the Prime Minister in Jamaica, sure. And for some other politicians as well.
Interesting. Philip Hudson, thank you for that. Professor Malaguti, let us, for example, say that, all the legal steps are taken and Mr. Trump can, in fact, run for a third term, and all these legal steps are successful. Wouldn't that then open up the possibility for President Obama to run for a third term against Donald Trump? Because he would have already done 2 terms, And if the Constitution were to be amended to allow president who had done 2 terms to run for a third, you could have a Trump-Obama matchup in 2028. How would that strike you as in terms of a possibility?
Well, it would, quite frankly, put one ray of sunshine onto a bad situation, because it would open up the field for other people who have served 2 terms to run. And it would not be President Trump himself who would just sort of extend his term. And of course, what's fair is fair. If he can do it, other people should be able to do it as well. I fear that President Trump is not going to try to do this through a constitutional amendment. The amount of time it would take to get something, let's even hypothesize that he could get such an amendment through. He would have the popular support to do it. It would still take more than 4 years for that to be done. It would have to go around to the 50 states. The 50 states would have to call elections. It just does not get done very quickly at all. So this is not going to happen. My fear is that he's going to try, as I said, schemes or methods using loopholes in the Constitution to try to get this done, so that it would only apply to him. Well, there's something, the 12th Amendment was passed in the early 1800s. And the 12th Amendment has the so-called succession plan. What happens if we elect a president in November and the president doesn't make it until he or she is inaugurated in January? He dies or for some other reason can't serve. And what it provides is that the vice president would then become the president, because the vice president is technically elected as well. And so there's been a lot of speculation that perhaps instead of Mr. Trump running in 2028, his current vice president or some other person would run.
And he's second on the ticket.
Yeah, and Trump would be running as vice president, second on the ticket. And then say it's Vance would resign as soon as he got into office, and then Trump would become the president.
Yes.
Now, this is never been...
and he'd have an entire 4 years too.
Well, no. So technically not.
Or only 2 more years?
Well, the question is whether he'd even get 2 years, because the very last sentence of the 12th Amendment says that the vice president who runs must be qualified to serve as president. And so then the question becomes whether Trump could he even run as vice president? Would it be unconstitutional for him to be on the second ticket? And these are open questions that leave a lot of room for someone who wants to scheme, for a third term. And Mr. Hudson was quite on point, and I commend him. I wish that some of my constitutional law students brought as much knowledge about the operations of the American government to the classroom as he has. The fear here is that the executive branch is getting too strong, and presidents get stronger as they've been in office longer. That's what happened with FDR. And I think we'd be heading towards autocracy if President Trump, slipped in and somehow got himself a third term. It would create a situation where it might happen again and again and again. And even if we didn't end up with an autocracy this time, it might happen farther down the road.
The only challenge or issue, though, to what you just mentioned in terms of the word autocracy is if the person is elected and elected and elected again and again and again, whether as running as president on the ticket or as vice president, then becoming president if the president had maybe resigned or, technically, really and truly, the person would have been democratically elected from the get-go. So how do you square the fact that someone was democratically elected vis-a-vis autocracy?
So an autocracy is the concentration of power into the hands of one person. Unfortunately, democracies break down very often through the popular vote as well. Hitler was elected through the popular vote. Mussolini was elected through the popular vote. The reason for this was manipulation of government going on in the background, and manipulation of the elections as well. And there's been, quite frankly, America does, as patriotic as I am, we've had some problems with our elections in recent years. We have heavy gerrymandering and the like. We have an electoral college, which means that the person who gets the most votes does not necessarily win the presidential election. So in the hands of someone who was aimed at concentrating power for himself or herself, even though they are democratically elected, they may still become autocrats. Once they become autocrats, we may no longer have a full and fair election. That's the fear that we all have.
So is it that you're saying that President Trump is not an autocrat, but could possibly become one? Or are you saying that he has become an autocrat already? Are you saying that he has the tenets of an autocrat? I don't know if you want to be clear. I mean, what are your real thoughts on this?
I can't read the man's mind, but I can look at the facts on the ground, and I can tell you that he has already essentially dominated one branch of government, the Congress. So we have separation of power in the United States, where we try to balance the power between three branches of government. Mr. Hudson eloquently spoke about this a short while ago. The only branch left.
I only ask because we want to be careful. We are a media house, and we don't want to be accused of misrepresenting anyone's character. So I just want to be very clear that Love 101 FM is not saying that President Donald J. Trump is an autocrat. I just want to be clear as to what your thoughts were on the matter.
Neither am I. I'm saying that I can't read the man's mind, but I do know that Congress right now seems to have no free will. It seems to have given up its attempt to check the president's authority. The only remaining branch that seems to be independent
or is it that they more or less agree with him, because it's the Senate and the House is red, Republican, and of course the president is. So arguably, is it that they just agree with him? I mean, when you say dominate.
Well, the situation is simple. I teach this to my law students. It is the duty and role of the Congress to make the law, and the duty and role of the president to enforce the law. One of the things that the Congress does is make the law by passing appropriations of money for bills. So when Congress tells these agencies that they have this much money to spend, and they are to spend them on the following things, the president is required to do what Congress says. His role is to enforce the law. This president is not doing that, and Congress has done nothing about it.
Professor Malaguti, only because of time, we have to wrap it here today. I want to thank both yourself and Mr. Hudson, a Jamaican resident in the United States of America, for being guests with us on this Morning Watch. Very interesting segment. Thank you for your thoughts and for your time.
Thank you. Pleased to meet you both. Thank you.
Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Put a deposit account in the JM Bank Savings Streams promotion and save monthly for a chance to win an all expenses paid trip to Peru. Enter now. The time by JM Bank Savings Streams promotion is
7:30.
Share in the experience at Montana Pharmacy. We have a wide variety of items in store just for you. Fill your prescriptions while you shop. and senior citizens enjoy 10% off. Shop household, cosmetics, toys, and many other departments. We also offer curbside pickup and delivery. Visit our website at fontanapharmacy.com. Fontana Pharmacy, where it's all good inside.
For 53 years, Under the Law has been helping you to know your rights and how the laws of Jamaica can help you defend those rights. The program is brought to you on Wednesday by the Ministry of National Security. Under the Law at 6:20 a.m., 2:40, 6:45, and 9:10 p.m. on Love 101 FM.
Hey, 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 small people crew. It's me, Auntie Vashti, and I have a brand new lesson for you. Join me this Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. on the Small People Show, where little voices make big sounds. Inside EduFantastic Tuesdays, we make learning super fun. We're diving into maths, English, science, history, and so much more. Don't miss out. Tune in this and every Tuesday at 4:30 p.m. with me, Auntie Vashti, only on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back. You're tuning into the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have in Loop Jamaica News. Entertainer Mr. Vegas steps out in support of the JLP. We have here in the Jamaica Observer, bold family loss. Bold family loss. Sprint Legends dad, Wellesley, passes. And we have here in the Gleaner, a lead story here. And there's a quotation. He always had a great interest in his son. Wellesley Bolt, the father of track and field superstar Usain Bolt, has died. He reportedly died at a medical facility in Kingston yesterday, just hours after he was transported there from his home in Sherwood. Well, it goes on to explain the a little bit more to the story there. And we do express our condolences to Mr. Usain Bolt and the other members of the Bolt family. Of course, to Mrs. Bolt, the wife of Usain Bolt's father. Our condolences to the family. Coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp question, which is, would you support a return to the time when the U.S. president could run for a third or more term? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on Facebook or YouTube. Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-9973-125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
You could call yourself a Christian, but have more churchianity traits and behaviors. What's the difference? Well, one draws people to an institution, the other draws people to Christ. Join us on Tuesday, April 1 for The Rock with Bishop Harold Steve Blair and guest Errol Bean and Rickwen Allen as they look at the topic Christianity and churchianity. For some, churchianity may have replaced Christianity. Is that you? Let's talk about the difference. That's The Rock this Tuesday, April 1 at 10 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
the next Campus Connection, we'll be looking at Staying the Course Part 1. In the context of education, staying the course generally refers to maintaining a consistent and effective educational approach, curriculum, or teaching method, even in the face of challenges or changes. Join us with guests from the Michael University College's Batch 169, Miss Erica Bennett and Mr. Micton Ibanks, as they share about their teaching journey. And don't miss our special interview with Mrs. Sophia Tomlinson Manning, Master Teacher and Events Coordinator from Hopewell High School, located in Hanover. Campus Connection is brought to you by Heart MSDA Trust. Skill is power. That's Campus Connection, Tuesday, April 1 at 5:30 p.m. Only on the family station, Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look at the responses to the social media question. Would you support a return to the time when the U.S. president could run for a third or more term? Jakal.
All right, so we have a response here from Hyacinth Campbell Daly from Bogwalk. He says President Trump should add to his desire, God's willing, he also could die before time, like the man who built bigger barns to store his goods. Terry from Spanish Town says, what persons have to remember is that we, the general public who voted in these people, we can never know what lies are in the depth, or what lies rather in the depths of their heart. Only God sees and knows what they do and must rely on God. That's what we have so far.
Thank you, sir. We move right into the second watch, and we're going to be looking at wildlife. A bird in hand or any of the hundreds of protected species may land you in trouble with NEPA. The Wildlife Protection Act 2000 protects hundreds of species, and the maximum penalty that may be imposed can be a fine of up to $100,000 and imprisonment for 2 years. And when we consider the again and recent appearances of various forms of wildlife, and that in relation to how members of the public are treating with or addressing them, dealing with them, it raises a number of questions. Our guests today are Ricardo Miller and Damian Rooster White. Ricardo Miller is a fauna coordinator, ecosystems management branch at NEPA, and Damian Rooster White, Rooster in inverted commas, president of the BirdLife Jamaica and Nature Lover. Damian White, Ricardo Miller, good day. Gentlemen, are you muted, sirs?
Can you hear me?
Is this Mr. Miller or Mr. White?
This is Mr. Miller here.
Mr. Miller. Damian White, are you online? We don't seem to have Mr. White just yet. Ricardo Miller, first of all, remind us what NEPA is. What is your role there? Fauna coordinator, what's your general function, and why should we be concerned about wildlife?
Okay, so NEPA is the leading environmental agency in the island. It stands for the National Environment and Planning Agency. So I'd like to look at it as two arms. There's the environmental arm and there's the planning arm. But for this topic, we are focusing on the environmental arm. And as the coordinator for fauna at NEPA, my responsibility is to, look at programs and strategies to conserve our protected species or endangered species. So, we write management plans, we put them into action, we do, habitat assessment, we do wildlife rescue, and, everything. And of course, we work with the public team to bring about public education about our protected species.
Mr. Miller, this may seem off topic, but should the environmental and the planning arms be split apart?
If they should be split apart?
Yes.
Well, NEPA was formed specifically to bring them together, because before NEPA formed in 2001, the environmental arm was actually called the Natural Resources Conservation Authority. And, you had the town and planning. And so the government at the time saw it fit to bring both parties together so that both the development phase can now interact very closely rather than being antagonistic with the environmental phase. So we're able to now work together to ensure that there is, smoother planning process where the environment is considered.
I ask because sometimes I wonder whether that synergy is really working, but
that might be a question for someone above my pay grade.
I'm not asking you to answer that, sir.
Yeah, I know.
But what are some of these species that are protected? I think of the crocodiles, and in my mind, they're so evil. I hate those reptiles. So why are you?
That's a strong word.
I know it's a very strong word. I don't like reptiles. So why on earth are you protecting these crocodiles? These anyway. Let me not go any further on that.
I like how you phrase it.
Yes.
You said, "Why on earth?"
Why on earth?
Why on earth? Because, when you think about it, let's get philosophical.
It's even on the coat of arms. I mean, what is it doing on the coat of arms? It should be removed.
The fact you use earth,
yes.
makes you realize that, there is no other. There is just one earth.
Yes.
When you look at it in a very universal sense, we're pretty much alone on this planet. We don't have a plan B. There is no Mars, really, and what is here, we have to protect.
Well, some people argue that you can go and live there one day, but we leave that for another discussion.
But take our sentiments out of it, because, you're starting to people start to put labels like, this is ugly, this is that, and,
ugly is a word in the dictionary,
function.
Ugly is a word in the dictionary.
Yeah, but it's also very subjective. It's also very subjective. And, there's also, functions. There's also just, differences. And those are things we want people to appreciate. A crocodile, for example.
Beautiful can be subjective too, but anyway, a crocodile, yes.
As a protected species, I always say it's a species that's hard to love. Because, people have that very same sentiment. It's ugly, it's dangerous, and so forth. So,
yes.
But the crocodile is just one species that we're trying to protect.
Yes.
We have so many others.
Yes.
When we think about marine turtles, for example, we have marine turtles nesting on our island, on our beaches. And if you go back 400 years...
I can live with turtles. Turtles are okay. But hold that thought 1 second, Ricardo. Damien Rooster White, are you with us now, sir?
Yes, I'm with you.
Excellent.
Now, I'm having a pleasant morning.
Yes. You are the president of BirdLife Jamaica and a nature lover. These species that are being protected include BirdLife, yes? Any comments you want to leave this before we head to the break?
Okay, so first thing, I am the past president of BirdLife Jamaica.
Oh, past president. Apologies, sir. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but I'm still on the board. But one of the comments that I want to make, I put it before, we have a number of special features here. When you talk about birds, we have over 320 species that visit here, and 30 to 31 that is only found nowhere else in the world. So when it comes to our birds, they offer a lot of services, and I think other than providing information to people that they're here, people need to understand the value of them. And that's a discussion that we need to have. And I know one of the things that everybody was talking about is the case where we saw a gentleman with the bird on social media.
Okay. And are there some birds that it is considered to be not such a great thing to do from a health standpoint to sort of have around us? Is there some any comments on that, sir? Mr. White?
Well, let's put it on that. Before I said that, birds are naturally around us in everywhere that you think.
Mr. White, and only because of time, hold the thought for a second. Hold that train of thought. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
During the worship experience, Arise 2025 with the Hoppers, Easter Sunday, April 20, National Arena. The time is
7:45.
Life is on the go. You got this guns with corn. Let's try it. Nothing made it to go. Perfect, tasty, coming anytime, anywhere. You and your body, they get knocked to the top. Beside no challenge, you can find the guns with corn. Let's try it. You really do you. Guns with corn, let's try it. So proud with an 83 and ready to eat right out of the can. Try the hot pepper, the delicious olive oil, or the new spicy fried chili on its own or on a cracker. However you like it. Guns with boneless sardines. Snacking made easy. Snacking made healthy. Snacking made tasty.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
I'ma work hard, for real. To be the most we send me and my brother go school. So, the dream was always to go to university. Well, I fulfilled 2 dreams with 1 Jane Bank savings plan, you know. Further my education, and I make mama proud.
Stop wishing you could. With your Jane Bank savings, you absolutely can. Jane Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch, and the topic is exploring the protections given to wildlife in Jamaica. Our guests are Ricardo Miller, Fauna Coordinator, Ecosystems Management Branch, NEPA, and Damian Rooster White. Rooster is in inverted commas, by the way, and he is a past president, not the president anymore, but the past president, but still on the board of Bird Life Jamaica, and he's a nature lover. Mr. White, just before the break, sir, you were explaining a couple of things in relation to birds, and are there some birds we shouldn't really be keeping, close to us as pets? You are then elaborating or explaining that, nature is all around us and birds are always there as part of nature. Please go ahead, sir.
Explaining a while ago that it's first thing, it's not every bird around you is allowed to have a pet. And as my colleague Mr. Miller will tell you, that majority of Jamaica bird species are protected by law. And if you have them as a pet, meaning the people who grew up with having parrots go and catch a white-winged dove boiler plate and have it as pet, it is illegal if you don't have permission. So another thing that a number of people don't understand is when you have some of these animals as pets, like the wild bird, and you are encountered to have it in, there's a chance that you could pass on, if the bird hanging around you, man, you could pass on a pathogen, or what I would say a disease, because it normally wouldn't hang around you, man, and you could pass that on and it affects the wild population. And we have seen that happen already with parrots in our Caribbean islands. And the second thing is, some birds, and I will go on a video that is alleged that it's a turkey vulture or it's not a turkey vulture. The thing is, if it's a turkey vulture, when you handle a bird like that based on what it eats, it can be problematic to you, the person handling it. And the other thing, it can be problematic to the animal because it's not used to you stress, and it can hurt the animal, and they hurt the baby, and it will hurt the adults, and it will also encourage other people that it's right to go and have a protected species, and then when the people act on it, you hear boy, them environment people are wicked. So that is a part that I like to bring to the discussion.
And when you mention that persons can become ill from handling some of these wildlife birds, for example, and they can pass on, I think you use the word pathogens. Well, I mean, generally speaking, what, if anything, can one do generally to allow yourself not to be exposed to because let us face facts. You could be on a hike walking somewhere, you stumble upon something. So there's always that accidental situation that could have occurred. And do you have any recommendations in terms of what persons can do to protect
Well, the
themselves?
thing is, for example, I have the opportunity where a number of people call me to rescue injured birds. And sometimes you don't know what has caused the injury. There are certain illnesses with birds, none have not recorded in Jamaica, but you still have to take a precaution. So if somebody encounter a bird on a hike and out of love, because we are nature lover, I would tell them to protect themselves by they can have a gloves or something to protect themselves. It's not so that they catch anything, but as a naturalist, we always learn to protect ourselves. Yeah. And the other point too, what a number of people don't understand is that, as I mentioned before, there are certain pathogens that can also pass from the bird and pass from human to bird.
I was going to ask you about that too. I mean, suppose we are the ones.
Yeah, that's why it is something that Mr. Miller will tell you, you know. Yeah. It is that if you see an ill bird, a matter of fact, most wild animals, if you see it, we tell you to protect yourself first, put on something to protect you.
Yeah.
So it's things like this we mention, and that's why we do not want it for the norm to people to just go and believe that they can have wild animal in their hands, that they can just pick up and take up a wild animal.
Yes. I understand, sir. I understand that totally. Ricardo Miller, in terms of the whole matter of the efforts of NEPA at the moment, public education, because persons, generally speaking, I think, are aware that there are some protected species. Still don't know why you're protecting the crocodiles, but that's another conversation. But people, generally speaking, know why your some species are protected. But to what level or extent do you think that needs to be improved? Because I have a feeling or a sense that there are still many persons who are not aware of a lot of the things, the laws and the regulations, and even just seeing an image. That's an image of a particular bird, it's protected. It's one thing to tell the person, but pictures, tell 1,000 words. Mr. Miller.
Okay, yes, thank you. And Damian White made some very good points. But you're correct. Public education for some reason is always underfunded. No matter which agency you go to, whether it's government or private sector, public education always requires more money, always requires more effort. So it is a challenge, I must admit it, but we've been making a lot of progress over the years. And just to put some clarity to the protection of birds in Jamaica. Back when the Wildlife Protection Act was being formulated, that was back in 1945, the legislators at the time were wise enough to think that we should protect all our native birds. So that is how the law is written. All of our native birds are protected.
Okay. So when you say native birds, for example, some people will, they might have a couple of birds at home or in a cage, or, how does one know that these birds should be kept or not kept?
Okay, so the law is pretty clear. It says all birds are protected except, and then it lists 2 sets of birds that are not protected under certain conditions.
Okay.
That the Wildlife Protection Act doesn't, because, as Damon said, there's over 300 species of birds that are known to either occur on the island or migrate to the island during the winter or the summer or pass through. So all of those are protected except, and the first exception, right, is game birds. We have an annual bird shooting season.
Yes.
So those birds are not protected when a season is declared and if that person has a valid hunter's permit. So all other scenarios, it is protected. Outside of the season is protected. If you don't have a hunting license, you cannot capture that bird, you cannot shoot that bird, right? So it is protected under the circumstances.
In that season, you're allowed to kill the birds, those birds.
Right. If a season is declared and you have a valid hunter's license, you can shoot those prescribed game birds. The next list of birds that are not protected are birds that have been introduced in the island for one reason or another. And the easiest thing to think of is chicken. Chicken is a bird. obviously it is not protected because we raise chicken and we eat chicken every day, right? So chicken, your backyard chicken, certain farm ducks, Muscovy ducks, those kind of ducks. So all the ducks except the migratory or the resident ducks. Look at it might have in their yard.
What about the
Little
turkeys?
things like budgies that you can get
we
at
don't
pet shops and
raise
so
turkeys
forth.
here. We don't raise turkeys in Jamaica.
Not that I know of.
They're
I
all
don't think we raise
imported.
turkeys
They're all
in Jamaica.
imported. Okay.
I think so.
I
Right.
see.
And things like budgies, your typical pet birds are not protected. But what is protected are all the birds that are native to our island, that live and breed in our island. And Damien mentioned parrots. And parrots is one of the ones we tend to single out, because if we have 300
So parrots are not.
that
So parrots are protected.
Oh yes, they are. They are protected. Our native parrots. So we're talking about the two native parrots we have, as well as the parakeets. We have the yellow-billed parrot and the black-billed parrot. Both of them are native to Jamaica. They're only found in Jamaica, meaning they're endemic. And we also have a parakeet, olive-throated parakeet, which is soon to be probably upgraded to its own species and be known as the Jamaican parakeet. Hopefully that will happen soon. But so those are some of the ones we've singled out and have had many public education campaign, because that's the one that people, those are the ones that people tend to want to capture and keep as pets and so forth. So we make sure that we're very specific in our, limited funding for public education. We're very targeted in what we're doing. So we look at the parrots, for example. So because of that, some other, maybe, some other random but protected bird might just get, slip under the rug, because someone might say, oh, it's not a parrot, we can catch it. But no. All our native birds are protected. So we're talking about the orioles in the forest, what you call anticaty, old man bird, and of course the John Crow, or more the common English name is the turkey vulture. That's the proper English name, which we commonly call the John Crow. That is also a protected species.
Right. So okay. So you have said it. So you're saying that what we Jamaicans call John Crows are protected.
Yes, they are. Because it's native and it lives and breeds out there in the wild.
Interesting. Any final thoughts you want to leave with us, Mr. White, and then followed by Mr. Miller?
All right. So follow up on one of the points that you asked about the social media, how to get information to people. For example, BirdLife Jamaica here, just put out some tips on what is endemic on that. I believe all of us can work together in putting out the information, because I know that there's a limitation where some people don't know what's protected from what's not protected, and also growing up having certain birds as pets.
I won't
becoming the norm, and they don't understand that they can get into trouble.
I won't join in the crocodiles, but continue.
Right. And the crocodile, as I close and move on, because we might not love the crocodile, we might fear it, but respect it. It is part of us, and if that means
I leave for respect for human beings.
Yeah, man. It respect human beings, but we must respect too. Because if you're wrong before us, and if it goes out of the ecosystem, it will have repercussions on us.
I don't know about them being here before, so I don't believe in evolution. Ricardo Miller, your final thoughts, please.
I think Damien has said quite a lot.
Yes.
My final word would be look at the health aspect that Damien mentioned earlier. I would say, we don't generally have issues with persons handling wild birds and getting sick from it.
Yeah.
However, the island is currently in a heightened state of alert and readiness, because there's a global health scare going on right now. Many people probably don't know about it, but bird flu is now back on the scene. You might remember probably 15, 20 years ago, bird flu was a big thing in Asia. So our partners, especially the veterinary services division, is spearheading a program to try and identify it, to be prepared, and be able to take the necessary steps in case bird flu happens to come on the island. So we're partnered with VSD, NEPA, and all the major chicken producers and private chicken producers.
Only because of time, Ricardo Miller, we have to wrap it there. I want to thank you for your time and for your thoughts. Both of you gentlemen, Mr. White and Mr. Miller, thank you so much, gentlemen. And thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other issues of the day. Of course, visit our Love 101 FM YouTube channel, Facebook page, and now TikTok at Love 101 FM Jamaica for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. And listen to our Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app. Download it today and stay connected to us. Love 101 FM, the number one gospel station in Jamaica. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and to our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall. Hand you back, Love in the Morning with Chicago.